Okay, so in this video, we're gonna do some changes to our movement logic. We're gonna add our movement speed to become a gameplay attribute. So that allows us to apply gameplay effects to it, so we can go slower or faster. It also allows our sprint ability, which we made in previous videos, to have some easier logic to it. This way, that we have to set static values. We can manipulate it all through our data tables for our attribute sets, right? So let's start from the beginning. First things first, we have to go to C++. So I already did all this code. So I'm just going to go over what you have to add, which shouldn't be much. Okay. So first thing, you have to add these two attributes. Obviously the movement speed, and we're going to add a sprint movement multiplier. I'm going to make it big so you can see, and you can copy and paste it. Well, make it big so you can see and just copy it. After that, obviously when you make a new attribute, you have to, as we did the replicate using, you have to actually create the replicate functions, which are right here. So you can pause and do that. And one more thing, we actually have to override post attribute change. So this is a function that comes from gas, like just base gas. You can go to your view attributes set and post attribute change. Attribute change. You can see it just called just after any modification happens to an attribute. So we want to actually get this, right? We need this so we can change the movement speed on our character. Okay, so we override that and we implement it over here. Pose attribute change, we call the parent function, so super pose attribute. Then we're actually going to get actor info. So this is a function that comes with an attribute set, just gets the actor info and stores it in gameplay ability actor info. And then we check if our attribute is the movement speed. So pose attribute change comes with a F gameplay attribute, so we can use that to compare it. And get movement speed attribute gets created when we define this macro right here. Right, this macro creates this function called get movement speed attribute. So we compare it, and if it is the same, we actually we need to get the character movement component, but this actor info only gives us movement component. So we have to cast it to the character movement component, so then we can change the max walk speed to the new value that's coming in here, right? And after that, we're gonna broadcast the value has changed, which we define up here as declare dynamic multicast delegate. We name it. So I named it F on combat set movement speed change because this is my combat set, right? So off, this is my combat set. So I named it combat set movement speed changed. And then you go in here into the public, you define U property, blueprint assignable, you do F on combat, and then you create the variable for it. And this variable is called over here, with just a broadcast. So you can also make it a 1. So you do underscore 1 param, and you can pass it the new value already, but we don't need to do that because we're doing it another way. Okay. And I did forget something. So when you're get lifetime replicate props, do rep lifetime condition notify. All right, lifetime condition notify. Then you combat set, and then movement speed on none. Rep note, rep notify always. Okay. And then in pre-attribute based change, you want to clamp your movement speed to whatever you want. So I did it. You can go under 0, obviously, so you can only stop walking completely. and then my max movement speed is going to be 1500. Okay, so the character can never go past 1500. This clamps it. And my sprint multiplier, I'm going to clamp it from the minimum sprint multiplier, which will be 1.25, so 25% movement speed, until 100% movement speed, which would be 2, right? And that's it. When you implement your functions, just it's the same as the other ones. You just gameplay attribute rep notify, and then you pass in your values. That's pretty much it for your rep notify. And that's it for the C++ code. So then you compile, and you go into your data table for your attribute, for whatever attribute you put it in. So I put it in my combat set. So this is my combat set attribute. And you define it with the same name. So the name of the attribute set, which mine is combat set, dot, and the name of the variable. And then you set your base, your min, and your max. And then the same thing for the multiplier. You set your base, your min, and your max. Then you save it. Make sure it's spelled correctly or it won't match up. After that, we have to create a new gameplay effect. So you go into your gameplay effects and then I put it on the base. These are my base classes, which cannot be called anywhere. These are just the base, obviously. So you right click, do that gameplay effect, then you select the gameplay effect, and then you create your class. So I name mine gameplay effect parent, movement speed basic. So what I did here in duration policy, I made it to have a duration. You can have it instant or infinite, but instead it would make no sense, right? Your thing would only happen for a little bit. Infinite forever, and so I want a duration. But I want a variable duration, so I set it by color. If you don't do it but set by color, you will have to make a new gameplay effect for every duration that you want, right? So you don't want that. You want to have it a duration magnitude, which allows you to set the duration given a tag. So the tag for me is set by color, movement speed, duration, right? And that's it for that. So that's the duration. And then on gameplay effect, we do the same as all the other ones we've done, right? So the first component is tags this effect has. So it will be gameplay effect dot movement dot speed. And then target tags, and then required tags to apply continue this effect. So the actor can have these tags or must have these tags for the effect to continue, right? So if a tag gets applied to the character, this effect will get deleted or will stop. So if it's continuous, so let's say the duration is 5 seconds. If during these 5 seconds you get applied a tag and it can't have it, the effect will stop until the tag gets taken out, right? So that's what this is for. So I have nothing. Obviously, cheat god should probably delete this. So must not have tag. So if you're a god, you want to go up, but you don't want to go down. So I just leave it here, right? Because so I don't get a debuff. So I must not be a god to get applied this tag. So if you're a god, in this example, you will not be able to sprint, right? But you also won't be able to get a movement debuff. And then grant tags to target actor. So whoever this effect gets applied to gets these tags also. So I get the gameplay effect movement dot speed tag. Okay. And then modifiers is just this is actually I made it a multiply. So you can set it to an add. So you can add a like a set value, but I want to change my movement speed based on percentages, right? So I did a multiply and I set it to a base of 0.5. So whenever I get this, my speed gets cut in half. But this is just to set it up. And then gameplay cues. I just created a gameplay cue character movement speed. So Amplitude character movement speed, you can have a down or up. So you have a Q for when you get debuff and a Q for when you get sprint speed up, right? So you can have different types of Qs. But this is the base, so I just get the base. Okay. After that, we make a child class of that base class, and then we go here, and modifiers. Instead of just putting the 0.5, we actually set it so the modifier becomes a set by color magnitude, right? And then you can do set by color movement speed. And that's all you have to change in this one. So this is just the parent, which has a set value for the magnitude. And then my set by color gameplay effect has a set by color magnitude, right? Okay. After that, we have to actually apply this effect. So we have to test it, right? So if you want to do a quick test, you just do this. So I created a new graph. So you press the plus sign and then it creates a new graph. I call it debugging. So just my debug functions go here. So the first thing we have to do is we have to set all the tags that we set, right? So all the set by colors need to get set. So first thing, you get the ability system component. So just getting the ability system component, this is an interface. So it will find, if it has one somewhere, it will find it. And then you set the gameplay effect class. So I use GE set by color movement speed. And then you just plug in. So to get this, you just pull from here and then type in make. You can get either that one or that one. You can leave it empty also because it just makes it a default. Okay, and then from the outgoing spec, you type in assign tag set by color magnitude. Assign set by color magnitude, you cannot set the tag, right? So you need to do assign tag set by color magnitude. And then you select set by color, movement speed, duration. You set the duration. So I put it for 2 seconds. So this debuff is going to be on the player for 2 seconds. And the movement speed is going to get multiplied by 0.5. So if I'm at 600, I get this applied, I become 300. So that's it. And then you just apply the effect spec to target. Or you can do apply to effect spec to self, since we are the ones getting applied to, right? You don't have a target. This I'm literally doing, the target is myself. So as you can see right here, it's the same thing. All right. And that's it for the debugging. So right now you can debug your ability system. And then if I press 6, as you can see, I get the debuff. Set by color movement speed. And then the duration, as you can see right there, it says 2, right? And you can also see the movement speed changing from 300. So it shows you 300 and 600, because 300 is what it is currently and 600 is the base. If you give it twice, it will go to 0. And if you keep going, you can go to negative, all right? So you can also set it to only have one instance of the gameplay effect. You can set that up in your gameplay effect, so non-stacking. I can show you right now. Gameplay effect. So stacking type right here. Aggregate by source, aggregate by target. You can aggregate by source. And stack limit. You can, if it's 0, it's unlimited, right? But if you only want one stack, you put it to 1, etc. Right? I'm gonna let it go wild. All right. Okay, so after that, we are gonna modify the player sprint function a little bit. So you can go to the previous video for player sprint, And you can see the difference, but I'm going to go through the whole thing right now. All right. So as usual, we call activate ability. So when the ability gets activated, we commit it. If we didn't commit it, we end it. But if we did commit it, we're going to get attribute from our ability system. So get avatar from actor info. We get its ability system. So this is our ability system, or whoever has the ability system, right? Whoever owns this ability. It could be your NPCs also. Your NPCs can also run. So, and then you select the class. So my movement speed is in combat set. So I select combat set, right? And then we cast it to combat set because this just returns the base attribute set class, right? So you want to cast it to combat set, and then you save it as a variable. So because later on we have to clear this event, right? Okay, and from combat set we call the delegate. So the delegate we created over here on combat set movement speed change. We bind on combat set movement speed change. So we pull from here, we do create, and it will bring this up. And I just do create matching event or function. You can do whatever you want, right? And so you create this matching function, and I named it on movement speed change. You go in here. So on movement speed change, we just set character movement speed. And you can go back to my previous video. This is an interface that I created that just takes in the new movement speed, right? And to select the movement speed, I made a macro. So you get the avatar info, you get the float attribute, and you select movement speed. You get another float attribute, which is sprint movement speed multiplier, right? And if we got both of them, we are going to select. So if we got both of them, we multiply our current speed, so our movement speed, times the multiplier, which gets put into A. But if we didn't, if we didn't get both of them, we just get movement speed and return that. Okay, so that's what this does when this gets called, but this also gets called right here. So this sets it to sprinting, right? This event is only going to get called when this effect gets applied. So if you're running, going 25% faster, and the effect gets applied, we need something to tell the sprint ability to change its speed down. And when it gets removed, we also need the sprint ability to update the speed again. That's why we need this delegate. Okay, and this is this is the only thing really we add in this ability. From the previous videos, we waiting per release. So if we released our sprint, we end the ability, or if we stop moving. So this wait gameplay event to actor. So when I stop moving, when my velocity is nearly 0, this event gets sent to me, and we also end the ability. After that, we handle the cost, and we make this function check can sprinting, which just checks the cost of the ability, and if you don't have enough stamina, it will stop you from running, right? Okay. And then we go to end ability. So when we end the ability, we set our character speed to default. So we go back to our default speed, which the way it's set up, uh, it's an interface, but it's in the player, right? And set character default speed. So this is my implementation of the interface. And we're gonna do so this function u ability system blueprint library get float attributes. So that's what we're using in blueprints, but we can also use it in uh in C++ obviously. So we get the float attribute for this actor in the attribute combat set get movement speed attribute, right? So this is the way this is a static function to get this attribute, and then it passes in a bool. So if we found it then we change it. If we didn't find it, we don't do anything, right? Again, you can go back to the previous video of how we set this up. This is the only thing we're changing. We're just adding this. You don't have to have an interface. You can do this code wherever you want. It's up to you where you have your game set up. Okay. And then we remove the cost. So we remove the infinite gameplay effect that gets applied when we start sprinting, right? And then we unbind the delegate. We don't, because abilities are always present, right? They don't get deleted. They're always on the character. So if we don't unbind it when the ability ends, this will get called even though we're not sprinting. So we need to unbind this delegate whenever the event ends and bind it again, right? That's the logic behind this. And that's it. So class defaults, we didn't change anything here. Everything's the same. And that's it. That's how simple it is. Then we go play. And my current speed is 600. I start sprinting. So sprinting goes to 750, right? Because 25% more. Then I give myself the debuff and back to 375. Now I give myself the debuff again. But now I'm gonna give myself the debuff and stop sprinting at the same time. Okay. And then it goes back to 300. So all that logic is so the values get updated correctly. So if you don't have everything in there, you could be sprinting, you get the debuff, you stop sprinting, and then your value still gets a 375, right? Sprinting, get the debuff, stop sprinting, you will still be at 375 because the logic is not there to bring it down to 300 after you stop sprinting because of that delegate. And that's it. Pretty simple. Hopefully it's a short video. So, all right, see you later.